Hey there, everyone. Tony here. I just realized I had my AirPods in. I was listening to music videos in the in the time leading up to right now. Listening to some Epica and Nightwish. But anyway, howdy. Seems like forever, but not really. It was just a day ago that we got to hang out. But interesting day today, right? 2/22/2022. You got to love the numbers and everything. And I was curious. I go up to the mountains every day and I get downloads and all of that kind of stuff. It's just a normal day for me to start off a couple hours in meditation and listening and all of that kind of stuff. And so this morning I was just kind of curious. And so after I received the download that I got, which is very interesting, it was about what was it about? Starlight and Stardust. Very, very curious information. But I asked the question, so is there anything to today being such a cool day, 2/22/2022? Like some people were saying that it's a divine thing and, portals opening up in the heavens and all of that kind of stuff. So I was curious, I mean, I'm about as metaphysical as anybody. And the answer that I received kind of surprised the daylights out of me, actually. Because what I was told was that while the numbers and all that are kind of cool, and we all love numbers and we pay attention to numbers, I know I do. In reality, today is just like any other day. Nothing special, because I guess whenever you're sitting outside of time, 2/22/2022 doesn't exist. So I thought that was very, very interesting. Yeah, like Vicky said, no portals here. Same. I mean, I got a hell of a cool download, but other than that, it's just. But they're every day they're like that. So anyway, yeah. So this is going to be fun tonight. As I was thinking about what to teach, this kind of came to mind because I guess maybe because I'm in the midst of creating some products around this idea, and I love sharing what I do. Yeah, so this is the direction that we decided to go. I'm going to go full screen and then do an official introduction. And thank you, Debbie, for always reminding us to smash the like button. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please do. I'm going to be posting on the channel a lot more. I've been giving a lot of thought to it. I have some definite plans. I mean, obviously we're doing weekly, but I also want to post some things that aren't, freaking hour and a half long, like a lot of these teachings are. So we'll see where that goes into the future. But anyway, let's go full screen here and do an introduction. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Expert Media Webinars. This is your host and teacher, Tony Ladig. And I thought it'd be cool tonight to talk about designing prompt cards. It's something that I'm working on right now actively. Some of you have seen my spirit animal series that I've been working on, and I may publish those as NFTs. Honestly, I haven't quite decided yet, but I am creating an oracle deck out of them. That's something that I've been wanting to do for a while, and I just couldn't quite find the right art that I wanted to use for my first one. And I think this fits the bill. So let's dig into it. So I thought we'd start off talking about the cure for stuckness. So let me ask you a question. Have you ever experienced any of these? We awaken in the morning and just to feel a little bit off. Maybe we're facing a tough decision and could use the perfect scripture verse for insight, or maybe we feel discouraged and need a little shot of courage to keep moving forward that isn't like whiskey. um, or tequila. We wonder which direction we should head in the future. Maybe we don't know. Or maybe we want to begin a new project and are looking for creative ideas because we're kind of hitting the ceiling. Maybe we want some ideas to spice up our writing. There's a lot of different uh, ways that we can feel stuck creatively or in our life or whatever. I know I've been there many times. And so there's so many different ways that simple guidance can make a huge difference in our own life. And, very often we will get some kind of an insight and then we'll tick it off as, oh, well, that's just happenstance, you know? And in reality, what I found is the more we pay attention, the more magical the world becomes around us. Because, I'll give you, for instance, I go up to the mountain every morning, nearly every morning, unless the weather's ridiculous. Um, but every morning I go up to the mountains, and probably about a year and a half ago, all of a sudden it occurred to me that this one morning, that it may just not be happenstance that I'm seeing the animals that I was seeing. You're driving along, minding your own business, and all of a sudden a hawk comes flying out of nowhere and follows you down the road, flying right in front of you for a mile. Like, that just doesn't normally happen, right? And so it caught my attention. And so then I started paying attention and writing down the animals that I was seeing on these inspirational journeys to the mountains. And one day I actually asked, is there anything to the animals? Because I like seeing them. I love animals. And the response was interesting. It was, for you, meaning me, Tony, for you, animals are messengers. And if they don't have a message for you, you're not going to see them. If you do see them, pay attention. Now, I've been that way with hawks for years. I can feel them. I can't explain it. But some of the random animals, a number of which I've only seen like one time, started showing up in the weirdest ways. Like you're driving along and all of a sudden a freaking porcupine runs across the road into the woods. I didn't even know we had porcupines around here. You know, Another time you have two bears, just meandering across the road up into the woods. Lots of really crazy bird things, flocks of turkeys. I mean, yeah, we have in the mountains, we're going to have animals, but it's amazing whenever you start looking for them. I'm a little off track, but hang with me. When you start looking for them, there's no guarantee that just because you're driving around in the mountains that you're actually going to see animals, right? Like yesterday, I saw a flock of turkeys. I haven't seen turkeys in 3 months, and then all of a sudden, there they are. And what's interesting is that I found out that a lot of the inspiration that I receive or the downloads that I receive, the animals are perfect. They're perfect complement to what I either was just told or what I was told a little later on. So I've learned to pay attention to everything, and so as a result of that, I mean, it just seems like something simple that maybe a lot of people wouldn't even notice, but it's just those little simple guidance things. Like, see, when was it? Saturday, Sunday. Today's what, Tuesday? Sunday. Um, Kristen and I were driving around, basically visiting metaphysical shops and antique malls. We just decided we're taking a day off and we're going to go to our two favorite types of places. And our favorite restaurant, a Thai restaurant that's about an hour from here. And I always see hawks in different frequencies, of course. It's whenever they really start getting in your face that, okay. Well, I counted 8 over the course of the day. It's like, wow, boy, you guys are really going out. I mean, like, we're walking into this one metaphysical store we've never been to before, hour and a half from our house. And like, I'm getting out of the car and it was in like a shopping plaza thing. this hawk is literally flying right up to us and soaring around and showing his belly and his tail and all of that kind of stuff. And I just said out loud toward the hawk, "Okay, I get it. Thank you." It's like just crazy stuff like that happens to me every day. But every so often, we just need that something. And maybe not all of us have the ability to go to the mountains every day, or maybe that's just not your thing, and there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe you like to journal just sitting in a special room or out on a porch or something like that. But however you receive that guidance, and it doesn't even have to be, personally related. Maybe you uh, like having an experience like I often do, where you give yourself an assignment and you say, okay, I'm going to head here today, wherever here is. And my goal is to photograph mushrooms, you know? And so it's just, you know, let's find mushrooms. Let's find something that's the color pink, or whatever. And so there's all kinds of ways that we can use these simple inspirations. Now, one of the most common forms of inspiration comes in the form of card decks, right? Obviously, there's books and online quotes, and there's a lot of different ways that we can get inspiration. We were just talking about some, but I found that card decks really lend themselves well to provide easy inspiration. There's a deck that I currently carry with me every morning into the woods, into the mountains. And interestingly enough, it's called Into the Lonely Mountains by Lucy Cavendish and Dan May. Dan May is the artist. I love his art. He creates these little monster type creatures, kind of look like bears a little bit. And Lucy, of course, if you've ever read any of her stuff, is just wonderful as far as the insights that she gains. And so I take those with me every day. And the last couple of days, I've kind of started off my time in the mountains with shuffling and drawing a card to see what it says. And oddly enough, it just has been spot on, just been perfect. So with these card decks, of course, we have inspirational cards or scripture verse cards, tarot cards, oracle cards, angel cards, numerology cards, motivational cards, affirmation, reflection, crystal cards, herbal storytelling cards, discussion cards, informational cards, idea cards, and prompt cards. And I can safely say that I have all the above and some in quantity. And so, what I found in researching this over the last year or two is that there's four huge markets that many look to for inspiration and guidance: self-improvement, spirituality, education, and creativity. And I haven't talked much about education, but you think about like flashcards, right? I should have put that on the list actually. Like different kinds of flashcards and those kinds of things are perfect for card decks. And there's lots of examples that are out there. So self-improvement market alone in all of its forms is a growing market, $10 billion a year. So it's huge. And, people who invest in that market usually don't just go buy one Oracle deck and then call it a day, right? They normally own several. I have around 50, but I was telling Bunny earlier today, she made a comment and, one thing that is very dangerous having a retail store, and we have a small metaphysical section in Nirvana, is that we have wholesale accounts with Llewellyn and Ingram and Hay House and US Cards, which is through Ingram. And they are like the top four manufacturers of tarot decks and oracle decks. And so to be able to buy wholesale, we get a new catalog in. I just kind of check down through the, the new listings. So it's always a fun day when those boxes come. And so it's a big market and it's growing all the time, especially with all the current craziness that's going on, um, more and more people are looking for answers and guidance. And here's the thing, early on, because of my upbringing and all of that, there was a time in my life where some of those types of decks were taboo. And for a variety of reasons, most of which were just, you know, lack of understanding or whatever you want to call it. But today, what I realized is, well, not today, but in my current life as it is now, one of the big revelations that I received is that answers and inspiration can come from anywhere. You know, it can come from anywhere. And so to say that you can, hear from the beyond, but it only has to be through this very narrow set of rules, I don't know. To me, it seems a little bit short sighted. Because the reality is, God or whoever you want to refer to can talk through anything, so why limit? Uh, that's my message for today. Thank you. I'll pass the offering plate. That was a joke. Debbie, yes, of course. They will all be on the RV and likely more. All right. So, as product creators like you and I, it's great news that there is this, I don't want to say resurgence because it's never really led up, but this even more so pressing of answers, people looking for answers, because it gives us the opportunity to share our own artistry, insights, our own wisdom. Like sometimes, um, you know, I buy decks of cards for different reasons. Sometimes, honestly, it's just for the art, you know. Sometimes it's because the messages on the cards is just amazing and inspiring. And other times I just, I pick up a deck of cards and it's like you just feel connection, like I have to have this. And so it just really depends. But the cool part of all of this, whether you want to get into the self-improvement market or the spiritual or metaphysical market or even education or creativity, each of us are unique. And so as a result, we have something to share, right? We have something that can help other people. And that's an amazing thing to me, to be able to take art that I created, insights or wisdom that I gained, and combine that into a deck of inspirational cards or creative cards, which the latest deck that I created is photography related, but still to be able to inspire other people. I mean, how cool is that? To me, that's just amazing. What a privilege to be able to do that. And we should, because we're all unique. We all have something to share with the community at large. So then the question is, how do we create our own inspirational card decks or our own creative card decks or our own educational card decks? Fill in the blank, whichever ones you're drawn to. Well, first off, you need resources. And most card decks, regardless of their area of focus, includes four primary design elements. You have the card art itself, the prompts, however and whatever form that they take. Whether you're talking about photography or you're talking about tarot, they still have prompts, right? Um, Very often there is a deck guidebook that expands or expounds upon the message of that individual card. Okay. And then, of course, you have packaging, the box that it comes in. And it could be a simple tuck box or it can be something more extravagant and exotic, like magnetic locks and all of that fun stuff. So there are also other factors to consider whenever you're thinking through, hey, you know what, I might want to do this. You have color and font choices, of course, and they should all play well together with the art that you want to use. There's a lot of different card sizes. There are some standardized kind of sizes, like in many cases, tarot decks are the same size, but not always. There is like a more jumbo size card, which is more my favorite style. But there's also like playing card sizes. There's even smaller cards, which I've also created decks around those. Um, and so it just really depends on what you want to create. And we'll look at some of this a little bit later on. Yeah, there's round ones, hexagonal ones, square ones. There's a lot of different options that are available these days. One of the coolest things I saw, I forget the name of the deck. It's a Kickstarter right now, actually, and I think it still has several days. But um, what they did was, if I remember correct, it's either an Oracle deck or a tarot deck. I forget. But what they did was they have your traditional tarot deck, traditional size and all that. The art is really wonderful. But then they also created a set of hexagonal cards that have the size and everything complements the size of the tarot deck. And so the way they presented it, I've never seen this quite like this before. If you do tarot, you have different kinds of spreads and all of that. But what they do is they have you like shuffle the hexagonal cards that are also the same art basically as in the main tarot deck. And so you pick a hexagonal card, put it down on the table, and then you shuffle your regular tarot deck and put a card on each side of the hexagon. So you end up essentially with like a 7-card spread, but it's done in a circle. Very clever. I mean, I saw it and was immediately enamored because I've never seen that before. Just super cool. Just a different way of, accomplishing the same end result. Number of cards. So number of cards can vary quite a bit depending on the type of card you want. You can almost choose a number. Like Oracle cards, for instance, which is what I'm currently working on. They can normally run anywhere from like 36 cards is very common. 44 cards is also pretty common, even 54 cards I've seen. And so it's up to you, however many cards you want. Tarot decks are normally 78. And so it just depends. Like a lot of educational cards tend to be higher in count. I forget how many cards I did with the photo prompt deck that I made. It's packed, so I couldn't find it. I couldn't find one of the decks that I have. But anyway, I think I did 50, if I recall. So something to consider. And there are recommendations. If you do a little bit of research, you can find recommended numbers of cards depending on what you're producing. The exception, of course, again, would be like if you wanted to do playing cards, obviously there's 52. And in almost every case, tarot decks are 78. But beyond that, there is some variation. And this is another design style that I've started experimenting with a while back, and I just haven't done anything more with it yet. But I love this style. The art is not original with me. I purchased rights to it, but just love it. I mean, I designed some of the elements to it, but not all of them. All right. So if you're looking for sources for card art, there's a lot of options, as you would imagine. I mean, you have stock images, of course, personal photography, personal art that you've created. The public domain, of course, is huge. AI-based art, math-generated art. You can hire an artist or partner with an artist, and this is actually the final art for the photography deck that I did. I kind of took this approach where there were 2 prompts on each card. Basically, you shuffle, draw a card, and then whichever of the prompts you want to create. One is either based on the one side, as you can see, is based on the elements. So, like the top side here, you can see fire, air, water, so on and so forth. And then the bottom options are like texture, color, pattern, light and dark, those kinds of things. And so the object of the game here, shuffle the cards, draw one, and then take photos based on one or both of the prompts. So that's how this one works. Very simple, very monochromatic, but with just a little bit of subdued color. So some of my personal online favorite art resource sites, of course, public domain. I'd be remiss to not mention public domain, but we have Pixabay, Unsplash, Pexels, StockSnap, Burst from Shopify. It's a relatively new option. Little Visuals, Welcome Collection, and digital collections at the New York Public Library. In my opinion, this list here, out of the thousands of public domain image sites that there are, these are the best. These are like the best of the best. If you said, Tony, what are the best public domain sites that there are currently, it would be this list. And I probably wouldn't add to it. This pretty much sums it up. I mean, you can find specialty things for sure. There's a couple public domain image sites that I absolutely love that aren't on this list, but they're very specialty, so on and so forth. Lonnie said, just found out, others may have known for a while, that Canva bought Pixabay and Pexels, and there are some restrictions for art put up after January 9th, 2019. I hadn't heard that, but the reality is, if something is in the public domain, it can't be taken out of the public domain. Like, you can try, but sorry, the law is the law. And so I don't know what those restrictions would be, but if it's CC0 on the site, which is what both of those sites have been, doesn't really matter what they say. One thing that I found in studying and working with public domain content for the last 15 years is that there are sites that will put up comments like, you can't use this commercially because it's ours and blah, 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 and all of that kind of stuff. Sorry, read the copyright laws. I don't care what you say. It's just, sorry. So they try to bully their way. But you read the law and it says that if something is in the public domain, which is anything before 1925 these days, an exact reproduction, including digital, is in the public domain as well. Because there's no significant change. The exception is, and this is what I've preached for years, is if you create a derivative product, a derivative work that exhibits change that's at least 30 to 40%, then that derivative work can qualify for copyright. But if it's an exact copy, like I was on, what site was it? It wasn't Deposit Photos, but it was one of those stock sites. And they had some public domain images. It was yesterday, whenever I was preparing for last night's webinar. And I was looking for an owl picture, an owl illustration. Oh, Alamy, or Alamy, I don't know how you pronounce it, Alamy. They had a public domain owl illustration on their site, and they had it watermarked and all of that, and they were selling it for like $9.99. And so, you know what I did? I took a screenshot of it that was watermarked, went over to tineye.com, uploaded that image, and discovered that that exact same image was on Wikimedia. So that's the one I downloaded. You know, I mean, there's nothing wrong from my point of view if you want to charge for public domain images, because sometimes it's just easier and it's a good way to bolster your inventory, your image inventory. But anybody that's worth their weight in salt in research, you can find that same image and they can't do a damn thing about it because it's in the public domain. So, you know, there's that. Bunny says, even some of the libraries say that. Yeah, Smithsonian's have said that for a long time, and then finally they backed off. Same with the New York Public Library. They were very strict several years ago, and then finally, I think they, you know, finally caught up with the law and realized what the law said, and so they backed off and they opened up their collections. So, you know. I mean, maybe they could, Leslie, to answer your question, to change how photos are added to the sites, but that seems so labor intensive. You know, you go to Pixabay or Pexels and you have to look at the upload date to make sure that you're within the legal boundaries of what the site says. You know, that just seems ridiculous to me. I just ignore it. I mean, I change everything that I use from those sites anyway. So on the paid sites, the ones that I look at the most, Adobe Stock is probably number one for me right now. Free Pick, Shutterstock, Storyblocks, Creative Market. Those first five are the typical go-tos for paid images for me. Dreamstime I use a lot as well. VecTZ, Reshot is a newer option that you may want to check out as well. Debbie says some publishers are republishing old works to maintain copyrights. The law doesn't work that way. They have to change it. Just republishing a public domain work does not qualify it for new copyright. It just doesn't. So I think it's funny. There's a lot of people that are using public domain works and profiting from them a lot more than when I first started. And it's like none of them know how to actually read copyright law. You know, am I still a huge fan of public domain? Of course. Why not? It's a treasure trove. Now, if they republish a work, their particular work, depending on how they handle it, could be protected by copyright, but there's nothing stopping you or I from finding an original public domain copy of what they just published and do the exact same things. No, Chris, I'm not. I am planning on teaching on public domain again soon. It may even be the next course. That's kind of the direction that I'm leaning. I'm just not 100% clear on what that would look like yet. Thomas says, some guy translated my product and is selling it. Yeah, if the source material was public domain, I mean, he could do that. The one thing that I will say about product creators, like most product creators, is people tend to be lazy, and that works to our advantage, especially if we're ones who get stuff done. And so, you know, lazy people will knock off what other people are doing because they say, oh, well, they're doing something with this, so they must be making money from this. and then they, try to get in on it because they're lazy. Um, and there's not a whole lot we can do about it. That's why, like I said in the course last night, whenever you set yourself up to where you're creating things that no one else has any idea how you're doing it, um, unless you show them, that gives you an edge. And I'm all about that stuff. That's why I get so pissed off whenever, certain people who shall remain nameless from Warrior Forum, go through my product catalog and basically knock off all of my ideas. I think I created a whole damn cottage industry just off of the ideas I've created courses around. Yeah, I know, Thomas. They're on black hat sites and everywhere else too. It's annoying because they buy like a couple of my products and then they just create stupid versions of them. But what can you do? The good news is, like, for folks like that, they're not me. So, God bless them that they at least know how to rip other people off instead of be original. All right, moving along as I step down from my soapbox. So, we have art, a lot of great resources for finding art. What about the text, right? What about the card prompts? Well, your own imagination, obviously. And that to me is number one option. But sometimes you'll hit a wall. I mean, I certainly did whenever I was working on the photo prompt cards. You would think coming up with single name cards or prompts would be easy. And for the most part, yeah, sure. But you get toward the end and you're like, how many other damn colors can I come up with? Geez, so so it's always good to have a little help from your friends. Maybe you want to use quotes from that are in the public domain. By the way, you can't just go to a quote site and say, "Oh, this sounds really cool," and it's from some person who's still alive. You can't use those commercially without permission, because if you do, it's a violation of their privacy rights. Now, if that quote is in the public domain, it's fair game. You can do whatever you want. But you want to pay attention to that. Short phrases or expressions, they are fair game. Like the example that I use a lot, which you obviously wouldn't use this on a card prompt as a card prompt. But whenever you have like a phrase that there's literally no other way of saying it, like preheat oven to 450, who the hell would want to copyright that? Can you imagine trying to come up with 5 different ways of saying preheat oven to 450? It's just crazy to think about, right? And so as a result, copyright law acknowledges that there are short phrases and expressions, or phrases that are common use that do not qualify for copyright. So we can use those certainly for resources for card prompts. Books in the public domain as well. AI-based writing generators. They're fun. I've taught about those before. And the fun part of it is, and of course the same is true with AI-based art, is that because it's not produced by a human being, it is not protectable by copyright, which means any text that comes off of AI-based writing generator is in the public domain. Art that comes off of an AI-based art generator is in the public domain, right? Another good reason why to add additional value. Then there's prompt generators, which I like a lot. There are obviously so many different directions that you can go with these card decks. So take your time and get the prompts right. this is not a race. Depending on the kind of card that you want, it's just going to take time. And there's nothing wrong with that. Here's a couple of examples of some experimental card ideas that I created a year ago. The one on the left is more like a Oracle deck kind of card. The art is obviously from Art Breeder, so AI generated. The card on the right was another approach with photo cards, which I may still do this deck because I really like how it looks. And I just use my own photography for that. Yeah, don't mess with Disney anything. Lonnie, yes. Content created by the US federal government is in the public domain because, as you said, we the people are paying for it. Yeah, honestly, Thomas, I would avoid books like Think and Grow Rich. Everybody and their mother has done that. And there's other great inspirational books that are out there. Like one that comes to mind that just went into the public domain this year is Crystallizing Public Opinion by Edward Bernays. Awesome book. Very applicable to the craziness that's going on today. But anyway, it's really a playbook for what's going on today. So let's talk a little bit about prompt generators. I just found this one. I'd never heard of it before. InspiroBot. So InspiroBot is basically an AI-based generator that puts random words together to try to make inspirational statements. And some of them are just funny as the dickens. Okay. I am InspiroBot. I am an artificial intelligence dedicated to generating unlimited amounts of unique inspirational quotes for endless enrichment of pointless human existence. You got to love the creativity of the person who wrote this code. So you generate, you are an affectionate, altering fat hound. I could click on this button all night. When we can't use public toilets, what is there left to use? The great outdoors. After the beginning comes the limbo. That's probably true for a lot of people. You don't need a projector in order to run for president. Good to know. I have a projector, so I guess I'm set. You carry the potential to become a god. There you go. Straight from the mouth of artificial intelligence. So this one is kind of fun. They're nonsensical, but because they're AI generated, obviously you could use them for a deck. And it could be really fun to see what you come up with. So I'm going to put that off to the side here for a minute. This is a whole collection of generators. They have different kinds of art prompt generators, name, title, plot, and so on. So like if we click on the art prompt one here, let's say we want to generate 10. Simple is fine. Simple is good. Generate prompts. Your prompt is tetratic, or He in Japan, a nightmare, an elusive memory, an island paradise, celebration. So like if you're creating an art prompt or photography prompt or whatever, some of these would definitely be worth using. Right? And so, copy the ones you like the most, hit generate again. A newspaper, baseball cap, complimentary, cruel words, dark red, decadence, goodbye. So, things like this definitely would work well. Seventh Sanctum is one. Journal Monkey, this is another one. Well, they're all good ones because they're on my list. Deep Writing Prompts Generator, Gratitude Journal Prompts Generator. Let's see what this one. Get prompts. What's great about family? What's great about shooting stars? Oh, so these are journal prompt generators. What's great about the sound of the summer ice cream truck? So the prompt is to get you to literally journal about or write about whatever they're saying. What's great about the people who love you? Or the existence of the word pachyderm. Okay. Probably shouldn't put that on a card. Bible verse generator. Now, the thing about Bibles, let's click on this. The thing about Bible verses is that you have to be careful which translation you're using. Like King James is in the public domain, and there's a few others as well, 5 or 6 actually, that are in the public domain. So you're good with those. You don't need permission or anything. And I think this is, King James Version. So this is in the public domain. But, if you want to get just random Bible verses, this is a good way to do that. This is another big repository of generators: random words, nouns, verbs, synonyms, names, weird words, fake words, random pictures, wedding hashtags. I don't know why. Motivational quotes. You might have to be careful on that one, especially if the people are alive. Writing prompts, charades. That could be fun. Random colors, that could come into play if you're doing something art or photo related. And so for tarot and oracle decks, there are a number of resources in the public domain that you can use. If you just do a search for tarot public domain in Google, you'll come up with stuff. Okay. And so you want to keep that in mind. Anita says, Winnie the Pooh. Yes, a lot of the Winnie the Pooh books are now in the public domain as of this year. Yeah, don't use living people for quotes. Exactly. Or you could get sued. Now, if you like a good lawsuit, by all means. I don't. All right. So next up, we have manufacturing. So let's say that you absolutely are moving forward with your deck. I would recommend stopping by a manufacturer first. There's a lot of on-demand card manufacturers. You're not going to get the price down unless you buy quantity. That's just, the life of creating any physical product. But there are a number of card deck manufacturers who can help you produce your deck. And they offer multiple card sizes with templates. They offer packaging options with templates. 2 that I have used are the Game Crafter, whom I've used the most, and Print and Play Games. I did one deck through them. And we'll look at Game Crafter here in just a minute. Amy says, if the person just recently died, are their quotes okay to use, or do we need to wait a length of time? I would have to double check what the laws are, because some of those just recently changed in the last year. Normally, my understanding of copyright law is that it is 95 years from publication date. A lot of other years, it's life of the author plus 70 years. Okay. So if they died this year, you still wouldn't be able to touch their stuff for another 70 years. So my guess would be no, you can't use them. Well, A. Milne might be rolling in his grave, but the reality is that he wrote those books 95 years ago. So they're fair game. All right, so let's look at the Game Crafter ones. And if you've been through some of my courses in the past, you've seen this site before, and I've talked about it at different times before. I like this site. These guys have done a really good job. You can see, like, they sell games and all of those kinds of things, but you can also use them for manufacturing. So you can see here, like, game component pricing. I think that's where a lot of their stuff is. Actually, let's look under pricing. No, make. Is that what I want? Products. Cards. Okay. So this shows the different size cards that they make. Bridge deck size, business card, circle, clear, Euro poker deck, divider deck, which is almost square. That must be a newer one. I remember seeing that before. Domino deck, Euro poker, Euro square, foil poker. I think that's new too. I don't remember seeing that before. Very cool. Foil tarot. That's also new. Hexagonal jumbo deck, which is about the size of the Oracle deck that I'm working on right now. Is this size. Micro deck, mini deck. I've used this one this size as well. Mint tin deck, so pretty small. Regular poker deck, small square, square, tarot. So 2 3/4 by 4 3/4. That's standard tarot, which I think is what my photo cards are, if I remember correctly. And US game deck. So a lot of different card sizes. And like, for instance, let's say that you wanted to use the jumbo deck. You can see that the base price is $1.60, but those prices do go up, and it depends on the number of sheets, right? The number of sheets that you are creating. So one jumbo deck with 6 cards is $1.60. But what if you want 36 cards? So it would be 6 times 160, 960 if you want to buy just one deck, and that's just the deck. That doesn't include, box or anything like that. And then you can see here they have templates in Photoshop, Illustrator, PNG, SVG, and then they have a proofing overlay. So very easy to work with. Just click and download. Actually, let me log in here. Okay. Let's see. I haven't been in here in a little while. So I think this, yeah, this is my prompt cards. I don't know if it's going to show them. So 90 cards, that's how many I had. And a tarot deck, and the tuck box. Now I bought multiple decks, so that price wasn't just for one deck. You can see the price point is 25 bucks. So that's the last thing that I ordered. I thought they would have had the other decks that I've created in here as well. Unless I use the other place, print and play, maybe. Anyway, sorry, got lost. Let's go back to the slides here. So, no, before we do that, let's let me go back to the different kinds of cards. So obviously, in addition to the cards themselves, you would need some kind of a box that you can put them in. You can see here that if we click Make Products, we also have packaging. And so they have different sizes of boxes depending on the size of the card that you're using, and depending on the count of cards that you're including. So like you can see, here's a jumbo hook box that would hold 36 cards. They also have one that would hold 90 cards. Okay. They have larger retail boxes, prototype boxes. So a lot of different kinds of packaging. And the good news is, like here's a small pro tarot insert, so very professional looking. And if we click on that, again, they have templates that you can download and rough pricing and all of those kinds of things. You just want to make sure that whenever you're using one of these manufacturers, you absolutely must use their templates. Okay. Sorry, I'm just reading some of your comments here. Thomas asked, do they also have point of sale displays? That's a great question. Boards, books, cards, dials, mats, packaging, parts, punch outs. No, it's those. Scorecard screens. Doesn't look like they do. But there are other companies that will do point of sale. We're fortunate that our local printing company handles a lot of point of sale stuff. And so with some of the brands that we have, we've relied on them to create our point of sale, like for our dice and some of our other physical products that we have lines of. All right, let's go back to the slides. So my recommendation is to research and invest in decks that appeal to you and that are in the same style that you wish to create. I always recommend this. It's one thing to go into a store and see a couple things that you like, but normally they're shrink wrapped, and so you can't exactly look inside unless you own it or a friend owns it or something like that. Then you can take the cards out, you can study the packaging, see what they have on their packaging, all of that kind of stuff. Because like the packaging that I created for my photo prompt cards, there's a lot that goes into it. I have a barcode that's on here, a listing of the different types of cards: air, fire, water, earth, and heavens, emotion, color, number, texture, pattern. And little subtitle kind of thing, how many cards, how many prompts, all of that kind of stuff. And, so that it's really worth doing. And before I created mine, I purchased a couple different photo prompt decks specifically, just to see how they handle different things. Frankly, I thought they were ugly. I don't even know why they're selling them, but the fact that they were selling them is encouraging to me. But yeah, that's what I would recommend, because you don't know until you know. Like, for instance, with Oracle decks, they come in a lot of different sizes. And two of the last ones that I bought are the same size, a larger card size, that is basically the same as the jumbo card that we saw there on the Game Crafter. So let's see here. Okay. Yeah, the packaging sizes are different, but the cards themselves are the same. So one deck is called Sacred Spirit Reading Cards, and Into the Lonely Woods. So Anna Stark is the creator for the Sacred Spirit Reading Cards. And the artwork is just gorgeous. I mean, just amazing. And Into the Lonely Woods, I mentioned them earlier, but those are both jumbo size cards, right? And then another deck that I just got, let's see, is a tarot deck based on the movie Labyrinth, which is so awesome. And these are, I'm pretty sure these are standard tarot deck size. 2 3/4 by 4 3/4. So yeah, these are standard tarot deck size. Just really, really cool art. I'll show you. Let's see, where am I? Just so you know what I'm looking at here. So this is, these are the ones based on the Labyrinth. How cool is that? I love that movie. And then I feel like it's a Christmas show and tell. This is Into the Lonely Woods. Love that art. And then the Sacred Spirit cards. But all kinds of different sizes that you can get depending on what you want to create. I mean, that's ultimately what it comes down to. And you can even get, let's see, like you can even go smaller. Yeah, this is a deck called Wild Moon. And you can see they're a little smaller, compared to a standard tarot deck size. This is from Tamed Wild. I have most of their decks. They're very, very cool decks. So it really depends. That's why it's absolutely worthwhile to do some research. Now, I'm not saying that you need to go out and buy, 10 or 20 or 50 decks. That's just craziness. But I mean, I do, but that's me. Yeah, do your homework, do your research. Let me catch up with some of your comments here. Nancy says, can you suggest a good accurate source for quotes in the public domain? Yeah, Google. Google.com. Do a search for quotes in the public domain. I mean, there you go. Not to be a smartass, but I mean, serious. The Google knows all. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for saying that, Debbie. Tony, me, um, nor anyone in this chat is a copyright lawyer. If you have any questions, contact one of those to be sure. Yes. Um, I don't play one on Facebook or anywhere else. And so I wholeheartedly uh, encourage that. As a matter of fact, anytime I have questions, um, there's a copyright attorney that we use and that we have contacted many times just to make sure that we were safe. Um, I mean, I can read, you know, what the copyright law says, but I don't have a legal right to give you legal advice. So, yeah, do your own due diligence there just to make sure. I'm a huge fan of CYA, and I think you know what that means. Yeah, David Bowie was in Labyrinth. Such a great movie. Not to date myself, but when I saw that when it first came out in a drive-in theater, which there aren't many of those around anymore these days. Um, our local drive-in theater is now a housing development, but I one of my cousins actually still owns a drive-in theater. Does anybody have any comments or questions about what I shared tonight? I know we kind of rattled through it a little bit, and there's a good reason why. And the reason why is because you may remember about a year ago, um, I taught a course called Prompt Card Designer. And in honor of today, I decided to make it available for 22% off. Aw. I figured, we might as well get at least something out of the uh, the 22 deal. So um, I decided to do that. It's such a great course. It's 4 modules. Um, both there's a bundle on the page that I think the regular price is 127, and the regular price on the course itself is 67. I know a lot of you probably have it already. There are a couple of bonuses in here as well. But if you go to Card Deck Creator, look at that, it matches and everything. I still have the $67 price on here, but if you scroll down, this is where the actual prices are. And honestly, this was taught right at the end of 2020, beginning of 2021. And so it's still very current. Honestly, it's one of my favorite courses that I've ever taught. I just love it. So if you don't currently own that, I am going to be mailing on it tomorrow, maybe, or Thursday, somewhere around there, just to give everyone else an opportunity to take advantage of the discount. Um, just a great physical product type that you can promote. And one thing that I'll also throw out there, um, just because it occurred to me, is that we are still very much working behind the scenes building Magical Bear. I know a few of you are in the Magical Bear program, and we have an update coming very shortly for you guys. But if you create um, cool Oracle deck or something like that, reach out to me, because um, one of the things that we're going to be selling through Magical Bear is Oracle decks and tarot decks and stuff like that. And so any opportunity to share something or sell something that one of you guys created that is different from the run-of-the-mill metaphysical store, I'm all about it. Kristen, the bundle was the prompt card designer, and let's just bring it up again. Scrolling. Prompt cards designer and card deck creator. So card deck creator is actually a course I taught with my son-in-law. Actually, we might be able to get to it from here. That's mostly about card games. Um, different kinds of games. We talked a lot about educational decks in this one as well, gaming cards. And so these are all different decks of cards that I've created. This is a game, Dinosaur Springs, Acronymity. Um, this is a flashcard game, and then there's another one that I created. I don't know if it's in this course or not, called Renumerate, that's based on little cards. And the regular price on this is $97 just by itself. But so the bundle includes both card deck creator and prompt cards designer. Yeah, I probably I probably should say, bright shiny alert. Um, sorry about that. Actually, though, I noticed earlier, Valerie, I didn't want to overlook your comment. I think it was you, or maybe it was Vicky. I forget. Somebody made a comment about card decks as NFTs. There's not a lot of that happening at this stage of the game. Not to say, yeah, Valerie. Um, Not to say that it won't. We are exploring options um, for having like a crypto front end for buying courses and stuff like that, where if you wanted to pay in Bitcoin or Ethereum, you could instead of using PayPal or whatever. But I'm still a little ways off for that. But the only way that you can currently connect physical products to the blockchain is through a digital NFT asset. Which the one thought that I did have with the spirit animals deck that I'm working on is to have in the unlockable content that if somebody buys the NFT, they will get a copy of the deck, a physical copy of the deck. And I am thinking about that. Anita says, great info given the new art AI stuff. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to present this again. I think that's why it came to me, honestly, because it's just a good fit with what we've been talking about of creating awesome looking AI art, and, like with the case study I went through last night, just lends itself well to creating stuff like this. I think they're talking, Valerie, about the Labyrinth tarot deck that I showed earlier. These cards are so awesome. Any other comments or questions before we wrap this one up? And actually, for the sake of conversation, I'm going to copy that. Put it in the chat. Wait, is that right? Oh, no. My bad. Here we go. Yes, smash the like button for tonight's video if you haven't already. There is a bell that you'll see that if you click on that, you will receive notifications whenever I put out new videos. And now that I am officially over 1,000 subscribers, let's go for 5. So, in other words, if you're not a subscriber yet, please subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. You are going to, over the next few months, see Kristen and I moving more and more into video and posting and Instagram and those kinds of things, just because with the directions that we're heading in business and all of that, we just have to. We actually have another channel called Unscripted and Magical Life. I think there's only one video on it right now. I know she's working on another one. Unscripted and Magical Life. Two videos. We haven't advertised this really at all. The fact that we have 55 subscribers, I'm not even sure how that happened. But this channel is what we're using to document our transition into RV. And so we've been shooting a lot more footage, and we're going to be posting another video soon. Kristen's actually doing most of the editing and everything. But once we hit the road, this will be our primary channel for what we're doing through the RV stuff. And then my YouTube channel is where the Expert Media Group stuff will still be. We are not currently, Suzanne, but we, as far as carrying the Tame Wild cards, but I just signed up for a wholesale account with them last week so that we could. They have, if you're unfamiliar with Tame Wild, I think it's tamedwild.com. They have a wonderful subscription box that they send out every month. I've been getting it for a year and a half or more. And it's like $25 including shipping. And they pack all kinds of cool things in there. I mean, just, it's one of the best subscription boxes I've ever gotten. Liz says, that'll be great to see you guys in the RV. I know, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait, honestly. So we found out this afternoon that I think we have a couple new showings for the house coming in the next couple days. So that's awesome. And yeah. Any other comments or questions? I don't know how many of y'all are into crypto, but if you watch the markets much at all, you know, you might be hearing Amazing Grace on bagpipes in your ears because it's been quite the ride lately. It's been down pretty low. I don't have a lot invested in the crypto market right now, although I'm getting ready to change that because it's so low. But you know, I think out of the $4 or $5 grand that I have in it, I'm down like $800 or whatever, which to me isn't a big deal, but you know, sooner or later it has to bounce back. Valerie asks, can you share the link to your YouTube channel? Yeah, I don't think we have a custom name on it yet. So I'll just copy and paste it. Yeah, Lori and Liz said, buy the dip. Absolutely. Like if what's been happening in the crypto market over the last 2 months is freaking you out, you probably shouldn't be in the crypto market, honestly. I look at the drop and go, yay, it's awesome. I mean, I'm definitely below my buy-in on a couple, but hey, I'll give you a good tip. Buy ACH. That's a good tip.